Hello everyone and welcome again to the Music Talks Conference 2025. My name is Elena Rosberg. I'm a radio, TV host, music journalist and music diplomacy researcher, and I'm very excited to be here with you today. Our session is titled From FM to Global, the KEXP story and the power of digital vision. Today we have the honor to hear from Darek Mazzone. Is it the right pronunciation of your name?
Mazzone.
Mazzone, okay, thank you. Producer, DJ, host of the global music program WOPOP on KEXP, the founder of Seattle Sacred Music and Arts, born in Gdansk, Poland, raised in the United States. Darek is a true global music ambassador. He brings sounds from all over the world to listeners everywhere, showing us how music can connect people and pass across continents. At the radio station, the media, that's called KEXP, its transformation from a local FM radio station in Seattle to a vibrant global digital platform is a story about passion, cultural authenticity and vision. And Darek's work highlights how music can break boundaries and build bridges in our changing world. So let's welcome Darek. So nice to meet you in person.
Thank you, Elena.
Let's start from the beginning. Many people nowadays know your KEXP radio as this incredible global music hub online. But it started very humbly as a local Seattle FM station. Can you take us back to the roots? What were the original values that shaped KEXP at the beginning?
Thanks for everybody. Great to be here. It's my first time in Bulgaria. I want to thank Peter and everybody. It's a fabulous festival. And the city and the country seem really lovely. The beginnings of KEXP are about 53 years now. And it was at a time when the radio stations were available for the first time to colleges and to organizations. So KEXP, like many others, was called KCMU. It was part of the University of Washington. CMU is communications. And it was at a time when radio was a job. So students wanted to work on radio. So colleges had radio stations. And this is how you learned this particular craft. We were an FM station. We started to realize that we could start bringing music in and have bands come in and develop relationships based on our taste in music and connecting with that. And nothing really exploded beyond that. It was just like a radio station. There were many radio stations around, but Seattle is a new city. It's not San Francisco, it's not Chicago, it's not New York. And it's a boom and bust city. So it has like a whole bunch of people coming in looking for gold and then they go away. Or airplanes start being built and then something else happens and then everybody leaves. So it has that kind of like, let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. It's not as established as other cities. So there isn't a group of people that are always trying to think like, is this really, can you do this? Is this time, it's open to change. And so the station was able to take advantage of that. As things started to evolve and technology started to evolve, we were able to come in and become the thing that we are right now by reacting to changes.
Well, the first association for me personally with the name of the city of Seattle is, of course, this raw, rebellious sound that came from its music scene in the 90s, grunge music, Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam. I believe this spirit still lives in the heart of the city of Seattle. How do you think that legacy influences the way KEXP approaches music and culture as a whole?
That was a really interesting scene, and it was the time when I got to Seattle. I ended up there in 1992. My car broke down outside of Seattle. I was living in Boston, and I was engaged. It was we broke up, and when you break up in your 20s, it's an opera. So I needed to make a big statement, left, and I and a friend just drove across the country. We didn't go like this. We went everywhere, and my car broke down outside of Seattle. And I never intended to stay, but somehow the universe was like, no, you need to stay here. Seattle was growing. It was a lot of things were changing. Microsoft, Amazon, Starbucks, Costco, Boeing was still there. But it was interesting because it was also cheap, and that's so important. So people could live together in various, you're a barista, you work at a comic book store, and you're making music on the side, and your rehearsal spaces were cheap. Every cafe could become a venue, so you could experiment. And the bands really supported each other. So it was the time when, you had Nirvana and Pearl Jam were coming up, but there was a whole bunch of other bands that were starting to make a buzz, and the big bands and the tiny bands were all supporting each other. They would go to shows together, they would share posters, they would share artists, they would share equipment, and it felt like, okay, we're in this together, we're really far away from everything. Nobody's really paying attention until now. Let's see what we can do. Let's see what can happen. And it keeps going back to that. Like it wasn't like set up like, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this is going to happen. Nobody had a clue that this was going to be a thing. So let's just give it a shot. And it continues till today. It's just that role of like treating it like a laboratory and just experiment.
Does it have a special effect on your program, on KEXP, this grunge wave and this grunge popularity over there?
I mean, it does a bit, but grunge it's 30 years ago. If you were to go to Seattle right now, it's a vibrant future city. You've got the tech hub, it's on the Pacific, so you've got a huge Asian influence coming in. That is still there, but it's not cheap anymore. It's very expensive. It's one of the fastest growing immigrant populations because of the tech industry. So that has influenced my show a lot, and various club nights that I throw. And you see much more diversity. And so that's really changed a lot. And you're seeing, the city. When I say Seattle, you have an idea. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you say Seattle, it's like, what is that? Even growing up in Boston, I had no idea. I thought it was just, trees and fish, because there's a huge fishing industry. So there is that sense of like, okay, we're still scrappy and new, but it's a bigger city. It's a bigger place right now. So there's a little bit of this, people come and it's like, where is, they literally go like, grunge came from here? It's like, yeah, it did, but it was a long time ago. The city's different right now. And the fact that KEXP has become so popular tells you how much has changed.
One of the most revolutionary moves KEXP made was to bring music via YouTube. Long before it was mainstream. Would you please take a moment and share with us what sparkled that idea? At the beginning, can you recall what's the story behind this decision to go to be online and search for audience over there?
This is an interesting story, and it kind of plays to the role that I've had at KEXP for a long time. I don't work full-time at the radio station. I never have. I started as a volunteer. And I remember when we started getting paid. When I started there was like half an employee that was being shared by another radio station. We're now over 120 people. It's a lot of full-time staff, etc. But I always had other work. I work in film, I work in advertising, and I always work in technology. I saw an opportunity as the internet was starting to happen. And the radio station was changing, because you have to understand the station was owned by the university. And the university, you have an economic upturn and a downturn, like I just talked about before with Seattle. When you have an economic downturn, the university needs to sell things. And the university realized that people aren't really interested in becoming radio DJs anymore, so we need to sell this thing. So we almost lost KEXP a couple of times. We had to form an organization, a nonprofit called Friends of KEXP, to take the license away from the university and then build it as a nonprofit. KEXP is funded by individuals. People give us $5, 10 euros, all over the world, and that's how the station works. It's not getting funded by government, or it's not running commercials, so it's a different outlier. And when the industry started to go a little crazy, the internet was coming up. I was working with Microsoft at that time, and we were building all of these things which are now called the internet. And so I always treated KEXP as this, my laboratory. So I went to speak to my colleagues at Microsoft saying like, hey, you know, let's treat the station like a case study. Because if you're a technology company, you're always looking for an interesting story of how these companies are using your tools so you can sell these tools to other companies. And KEXP became this laboratory where we're like, okay, the internet is coming. Let's try to figure out how we can take the first uncompressed audio stream and put that out there and see what happens. We didn't know what was going to happen because, you know, it's like you didn't have iPhones. You had like these limited, you listened to music on your computer, but we were at the beginning of all this stuff. We were like, let's see what happens. Let's try a couple of things. And when YouTube came about, you remember it almost went away because people were like, why would you, it was just too hard to do video on this stuff. It was just really hard. We're like, well, let's give it a shot. Let's build the infrastructure so we could be ready to do videos on there. And the first year we did videos, we asked all the bands to come in. Maybe 10 said yes in a year, because why would they come in? We're not paying them. So why would they, you know, instead of being in our hotel before the show, come in and do this? Next year it was 300. Now everybody wants to do a KEXP session on YouTube. Most people don't even know we're a radio station. They just think that we're this YouTube channel. And we have to tell them, like for me specifically, we're a radio station. You need to make a record and send it to us. Don't send me a link to your video. I need to play this on the radio. And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, no, like you need to make a record. And we become like this, we legitimize the process, because just because you make a video, it doesn't mean you made a record. You know, you got to go through the process of being an honest musician. And we do this. It's like, you need to send me a link to something I could download. You need to tell me something about yourself. Put an EPK together, electronic press kit. Send me a photo of you and tell me something interesting about you, because then maybe I'll put you on the YouTube channel. But if you just like send me your video of you singing about something, that's not enough anymore, because there's a million of you out there every day. So it's been this interesting process of like seeing how it goes, but to be ready to allow your message to go through the technology.
Can you compare your story, the story of KEXP going on YouTube, with this National Public Radio and Tiny Desk concert? Can you parallel and tell us about your thoughts?
A Tiny Desk came out of NPR, which is the National Public Radio, which is funded by the government, etc. We've always been more punk rock than that. You know, we were the first ones to do video. Tiny Desk is great; they're dear friends of us, and they're also on the East Coast, and we're on the West Coast. So there is that reality. We were the first, and not saying that we have to be the only one. They saw a model that people were spending more time using YouTube as a music discovery engine. Like a lot of people listen to YouTube, they don't even watch YouTube, they just put it on. And so we found that the algorithm gets kind of pissed off because I talk a lot and I want to interview the artist. So people are like, nah, you know, we just play the music, just play the music. And we're like, no, that's boring. We're going to talk a little bit here. So we're trying to play with the algorithm to try to figure out how to open people up to that. Same situation with Tiny Desk, you know, but they decided like, no, we're just going to play the music, because we realized that YouTube is probably the second largest entity for music discovery. So we're experimenting, we're playing with these things.
Can you tell me something more about the production? I'm very curious. As a DJ who's doing something YouTube-based, is it a very costly, expensive production? Is it time-consuming? How do you do it?
It's time-consuming. It's not too expensive because we're a nonprofit. We were able to get gear, but it's a 5-camera shoot. We built a new studio in the Seattle Center, right by the Space Needle, and I talk with my hands. It's a full-on production. Like, people come in. We have a crew of 5 people. We have an amazing audio engineer, Kevin Suggs. We have mastering engineering. It's like a full-on television/radio setting. I'm sitting there. The band comes in. They do a quick rehearsal, a sound check. It takes about 5 hours all in. They come in, load in, 90 minutes is a process. Then we film. Performance is about 40 minutes. Interview, 10, 15 minutes. And then it's got to be edited. And then that takes about 3-4 weeks to make it happen. And it costs about probably like $1,500 each time. So it really pisses us off when a band doesn't show up or something else happens. And it's risky too, because we're trying to figure out, like, you know, we have a narrative with what we're doing here. First of all, it's got to be good. There's got to be something interesting. With my show, you know, it's from an international perspective. Other DJs are going to have their own particular vibe. And we have one crew doing this. We've specifically been focused on being small. You know, we've been approached by Vice, by Amazon, by all of these entities. Are like, we're going to work together and create something. And we're like, nah, like, you know, because our brand and our message is the most important thing we have. So even though they throw money and we're going to go here, like, no, we're going to keep it small and see what happens after a while. But like, literally, when we're in Transmusicales or we're in Bilbao or Mexico City, we're dark as far as video. We're still doing radio. We just bought a radio station in San Francisco because we believe in radio. But it's a full-on production. If you come, I'll give you a tour. It's pretty amazing.
Can you tell me who's the curator who picks up certain artists and bands that you select to play on your YouTube channel? Is it you personally, the man, the director who makes the selection?
I mean, it's, as I said before, we're small, so it's consensus. So like my friend Jim Beckman, who manages the video crew and puts everything together, I will pitch him. I go like, okay, I've got this band from Estonia. They're pretty amazing, and they're doing this, this, and this. And then another DJ will go, I've got this, you know, a crazy punk rock band from, you know, New Mexico. And so we got to like sell it to each other. It's like classic old school radio. Why do I think this is good? Why do I think this is important? And because we have one crew, then you try to figure out the timing for that and see how it goes. And this is the other part that's really important. Is like, we're deeply invested in Seattle and in the Seattle scene. So people are going like, I want to come to the city and I want to get on KEXP. And I go, well, do you have a gig? Are you playing anywhere? Like, no. And it's like, well, get a gig. You know, there's clubs, there's places. Go through the process. And then once we see that happening, and if the schedule opens up, then let's see if we can get you to come into KEXP. But you got to do the work.
Can you tell me about special moments that you have in your mind about artists and bands that show you that this format is truly groundbreaking, something memorable in the history of KEXP?
In a history, like as radio or video?
No, video.
Okay.
Because we are much more familiar with your production online on YouTube.
God, that's a long one. That's well, there's a bunch of things that kind of came in. We, as a tool for supporting artists, that came kind of early when people adopted YouTube. We realized that our concerts became invaluable tools for these artists to get festivals to book them. That became like, we didn't realize that we were making such a big impact on the careers of these artists. And we saw bands like Hunhur 2, is a Tuvan throat singing band. You know, it was hard to sell in this land of Fleet Foxes and the Shins, etc. And I had to go like, trust me, this insanely amazing tube and throat singing band is going to do well. And that video became the most video of the year that we had on KEXP. And we had some significant artists up there. So we realized that there's an audience for this. And we don't need to look at how popular music is developed. We have our own particular taste, and people are paying attention to that taste. And then it became a tool for legacy. Like we had Esma Redzepova, we've had Lee Scratch Perry, we had Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings in there before they died. And that's one of the things that I'm focusing on right now is like these older artists are coming through. Young artists are there instantly. They want to do something. But if I have somebody like I tried to have this Indian tabla player, Zakir Hussain, and every year he came in and he always said no. And he waited too long. He's passed. And I was like, this becomes an opportunity for you to share your legacy for generations because we've built in that audience. So your work lives on.
KEXP isn't just Seattle anymore. You've taken the stage to Latin America, to Asia, Central, Eastern Europe, where else? Africa, I guess. How do you keep those connections authentic across that diverse places?
People trust our taste. That's the most important part. Is like we're real people. I'm a real person, and I have a relationship with these artists and my listeners and my viewers. So they're like, okay, I'll give this a shot. I'll give this Mongolian heavy metal band a shot because Darek, I trust this taste. And so that authenticity works like that. Like I want to spend time with these artists. I want to learn something about them. I want to be present for them. It's not transactional. You're not like holding up a bag of Doritos or something. It's like, no, we're really there. And you see this because we have a bunch of bumper stickers. And those bumper stickers are all over the world. And we're not competing with the radio stations anymore. You don't see Spotify bumper stickers, but these particular things are literally all over the world right now. So if you're willing to, there's an authenticity there.
Would you please tell me a story about a music scene or city that impressed you the most recently and surprised you in a way with its creativity or energy or anything else?
Oh my God, there's so many. I'm lucky I get to travel all over the world a lot for a variety of reasons. Not KEXP is one of them, but my day jobs. There's a few. The one that really blew my mind actually was Beijing. So you have to understand, Beijing musically was isolated up until the 80s. And when Deng Xiaoping came in and opened it up, they got music hitting them all at the same time. And there's a story about this. Like, you guys remember cassettes? So if you work in a record stores, there were a thing called cutouts. And that was like, that cassette was then much cheaper, and then it became plastic. All of these records, these cassettes would be sent to Beijing, sent to China to be recycled. So they created these little pop-up stores, and that's how these Chinese musicians learned about Western music. But they learned in 1 year what took 100 years to come in. They learned everything from Billie Holiday all the way to Massive Attack, like all happening at the same time. So the music there is this mishmash of stuff. Like I'm going to these like clubs and areas and I'm like, what the hell am I listening to here? It's like metal meets jazz meets traditional, all happening at the same time with this really interesting performance around it. So that was, I felt like I was in a completely different world. And then the other place is, I'm spending a lot of time in Asia right now. Seoul has an amazing scene. Korea is phenomenal on so many levels. When you think about this country, small, punching above its weight, culturally, musically, in all forms. And being there was like, okay, this is the future of something. So those are the two that really pop in my mind.
Do you have your answer how Koreans do this global success with K-pop music, with the whole industry, with the public diplomacy, politics?
I would say the reality of the country has forced that, because you have to understand Korea is an island. It has a relationship with a very a neighbor that doesn't like it, North Korea. So that sense of like we're isolated is really part and parcel of who they are. They've seen this interesting uptick with K-pop, as an example. K-pop is fascinating, and I could do a whole piece on how K-pop is going to save the music industry. But that sense of like, K-pop is great, but it's not really telling me anything about Korea. It's telling me a lot about K-pop. So the traditional music scene in Korea is vibrant and alive in so many ways because the government and the institutions and commerce realize that they need to talk about Korea. They need to amplify all of the aspects of Korea, the cuisine, industry, Samsung, etc. So they're not like cherry picking. This is better than this, and this is better than this. They realize that in the 21st century, they need to elevate all aspects of that culture. And it's paying out right now, the fact that we're talking about this.
Let's talk about your personal journey. Uh, it's quite interesting. I think about you as a European, in a way, of course. You were born in Gdansk, Poland. You grew up in Boston or in the States. And
Boston, go Red Sox.
yeah. How has your own journey, your own story affect your work on air, online, within this project of KEXP?
I'm an immigrant, and that changes you pretty dramatically. And I didn't realize how much it changes me. My children are first generation. Their relationship is different than they go to Poland, and they're like, this is really, I feel connected here. My wife is American. Her family moved to America in 1630, like they were really first. So there's a interesting sense of belonging and yet being from someplace else. So I have an empathy with other immigrants. This is a complicated time for immigrants in the United States, and there's a lot that I'm trying to help with that. But it's that sense of like, okay, what can I do to be a good, gracious host? How can I help others that are going through this? I've been all over the world. I've been in Muslim countries. I've been in Asian countries. That sense of graciousness, that welcoming spirit really connects us in many ways. And I found music and film and other forms to manifest that. And I lean on music especially because I speak about this a lot. Like, music is the only form where you don't need to understand the language, the culture, or the history of the artist presenting that work. You feel it, you open to it. And there's a great quote by a poet, a Sufi poet, Rumi, and he says that people that speak the same languages often don't understand each other at all. But people that feel the same feeling really deeply understand each other. And music is that moment where we're all feeling the same thing. And I think it could save us in the long term, especially now where, one of the things that you have to understand about KEXP is like, you don't need KEXP. There should be no reason why KEXP is successful. It's a radio station. You used to need it because that was how you found music. You found a cool radio station and that was it. Now you are inundated with music. But KEXP is successful because people have a relationship with that. People will be wandering the world, and if somebody's got a KEXP t-shirt, they have a conversation with each other. There's this connection that we found through music, and we've built our programming around it. We do special day programming dealing with mental health or dealing with addiction, where we will ask listeners to send us their stories about how music helped them going through these difficult times. A partner dies of cancer, or somebody's dealing with addiction in their lives. And then we read those stories, and then we play those songs. Those become really powerful. And then we're being used as a case study by mental health institutions, because we realize that, like, this is how music works. People connect with us through music in a way that connects them to themselves and to their community. So I lean on that as I'm exploring and experimenting, to see what happens next.
Do you think that music can disconnect people? In certain
Totally. There's propaganda. I was just in Warszawa, in Warsaw, I was there with the World Justice Forum, which is an amazing organization that I like to support. They published an index on the rule of law, and we were doing a panel on can you be neutral as an artist? Can you be neutral? Like, let's say you have 2 million followers. You're seeing this play out in Radiohead right now. Can you actually, if you have 2 million followers, can you be neutral on Ukraine, Gaza? Can you be neutral on these things? And we don't know. You know, some people are saying like, nope. Some people are saying like, yes, we can. And we got into this whole conversation. I was the moderator, and I thought the conversation was going to go this way. We got into a whole conversation on Indian Bollywood propaganda movies and how the government in India right now is actively supporting these propaganda movies that, you know, elevate Hindu, decrease the other groups. Totally. You could see this in the country, in the history of this region. I grew up under communism. There were communist songs. There were like, we're better, we're superior. You see this in World War II, totally. It can disconnect you.
You have history with different artists from Central and Eastern Europe. What do you think is our strength? Talking about creativity, energy, what's specific for the region? And how could the global audience be connected or interested in this place culturally?
Culturally, I think this place is fascinating. The history of it, this could be the next wave. We're kind of always looking for what's the next wave. The various migrations, the experience that people are having here, there's just so much fertile ground here, musically and culturally. But this is what I brought about in the last panel. You've got to speak about this. Everybody's in one form or another on social media. You need to amplify the other artists, the other scene. Everybody should be a huge advocate for what's going on in their various regions and throughout. That's one of the reasons why Seattle became really popular, is that like people were like, no, we got to talk about this. We got to talk about the great music that's going on here, the great radio, the great technology. And you just, you know, the term is evangelize it. I don't know if that translates well here, but like, you know, let other people know that this thing is going on.
It's very interesting and very brave that KEXP managed to grow so massively without being commercial and staying artist first. That's a very important topic. Would you please share some thoughts in this connection? How do you do it? What kind of bravery do you need to do it? And what else?
I don't think it's bravery. I think, to be honest with you, it's reputation. We are doing fine, but we could screw up once and then we're done. And also we realize that you have to understand this medium is in constant flux right now. I work in the technology sector. I see things like NTS radio, started for 5,000 pounds and is huge all over the world. I could start a radio station right now and make it available anyway. I have a couple of YouTube channels. I'm on social media. All of those things are outlets for you to share your taste, but it's very individual. The thing that works from radio is that you're listening together. When you're on some algorithm and some platform, that's your own personal experience. You know, how often does somebody go like, check this out, I'm listening to it? That's not an experience anybody's interested in. Like, okay. But if you're listening, if you're in that setting together, if you're listening together, then it becomes something tactile, it becomes real. And we are artist first, and we are our taste first, because we know that it gives us legitimacy, because we're not screwing it up. And so we're super focused. I was speaking about before about large companies wanting to work with us. We want to do this here, I want to do this here. We do a deep gut check to see, is this really who we are? Is this the thing that's going to happen? And it can be quite contentious. You know, there are things that I wanted to do, and then, you know, others did not. And there are other other pressures and other things like that, but we really go in and like, is this really who we are right now? Where we are right now? Is it smart for us to get, if we were commercial, we get bigger and bigger. We'd have multiple studios, all of these things going on. We bought a radio station for $3.5 million so that radio station wouldn't go Christian or right wing, because we believe in radio. That's not the smartest move, but maybe it is the smart move. So we're willing to take those risks as long as it feels like it's honest to who we are.
Any advices for the new coming artists, new promoters, how to build sustainable projects outside this commercial ecosystem? Is it possible nowadays?
It's absolutely possible, but you have to realize that there's music, and then there's the music industry. Music's been around. With my project Sama, I have this idea that music is our first language. And it's where we could express our emotions. It just created something. Then the industry came in. And then suddenly, you have to understand, like when the gramophones and the amount of time that could fit on a record became the amount of time that a song lasted. All of these things started to get truncated because of the technology that was coming in. We don't have that issue anymore. Spotify releases 150,000 songs every single day. This is crazy making, but this is what's really happening right now. But if you're an artist and you're not lazy, and you're willing to do the work, and you're willing to actually work within your community, build an ecosystem around that community. I worked on a project in Amman, Jordan with the UNHRC on building a startup music ecosystem within Amman with refugees, because there was the one thing that we could do where refugees didn't need papers to actually perform. So they could actually, be part of something and create some art. You need to think like that within your community. Like, don't automatically think that you're going to become a superstar. You're not. You might, but doubtful. But you could become a sustaining artist working within your community. Seattle is a prime example of that. Nobody expected things to go crazy, but it did. And, and there's a lot of people arguing that it screwed it up, because you had that authenticity supporting each other. And we tenuously held on to it. That's the success model that I'm seeing right now. It's like, if you're building and fostering where you are, then you'll be successful. And then, but also becomes another question that comes up on a lot of panels that I'm looking at right now, that I'm on, is like, really look within and see what makes you happy. Like, I know a ton of people who are superstars, they're miserable. I know a lot of people who are rich, they're miserable. I know people that are doing okay, and they're happy. They have a community, they're playing, they're able to create. But their intention always started was like, what is it that's going to make me feel okay about myself?
So you're saying that authenticity can beat statistics, virality. Is that true? And why is that?
What's the question again?
You believe that authenticity can beat all those numbers, listeners, virality of the project.
Yeah.
Is it much more stronger?
Yeah, because it's a real connection. It's like a tangible connection. You see people that have like 2 million followers or something, it's like, they don't know these people. It's just, you're just playing numbers. If you have 5,000 people that you actually have that sounds bizarre, because how much of a relationship can you have with 5,000 people? But there's like some kind of like tapestry connecting you in some form or another. And it is local. I think what's going to save the artists right now is to focus on local. We're Seattle. And then build from there and see what happens. But if you're automatically like, I'm going to go for the moon, I don't think it's going to work right now, especially not now.
I'm interested to know about your other projects. You're so diverse in what you're doing. For example, could you tell us about Seattle's Sacred Music and Arts?
Okay. So it's actually Sama. Seattle Sacred Music was an initial idea behind it. I was looking for artists and music that could actually tell me something about where they were from. I saw this scene evolving, and this is a longer conversation, where and the West especially, like Bulgaria, Poland, etc. Once the wall came down, artists wanted to sound like the West. There was a version, there was a Polish Cure, there was a Polish, Beastie Boys. Everything was like, I want to sound like that. They were cover bands in one form or another. Even though they were singing songs that were about them, etc., the mimicry was like a cover. There was a whole other generation that started tapping into their roots, like village music and other forms. Warsaw, we had the Warsaw Village Band, Sutati, and others. And I started seeing this thing evolve all over the world, where the music that they were making kind of like gave me a deeper understanding of where these artists were from. The artists that were like, we had this yesterday, like the Bulgarian Ed Sheeran, is that the way you pronounce his last name? Yeah, sorry, I'm not, I'm deep in the
Ed
the
Sheeran,
nerd. Ed Sheeran.
we say it like this.
We have Ed Sheeran, so why do we need a Bulgarian Ed Sheeran? Give me somebody Bulgarian that's going to blow my mind, that's going to tell me something about Bulgaria, past, present, and future. And I started Sama. Sama is an ancient word that means together. I started this initially with my friend John Goodfellow to bring artists like this to Seattle, because Seattle is a great city, but it's not one of the major cities. And so we were missing some of these artists. So we built an ecosystem where we were going to find really interesting artists and bring them in and find ways for them to play live shows, do something at the university, create a more vibrant scene. COVID hit, and we went online. It was like, because you could. I learned all this through KEXP. It's like, okay, I'm going to start my own channel. Got a good mic, got a couple of good cameras, and we were able to record natively in the cloud. Does you guys know what that means? So it sounded and looked great. And so, okay, I can do this. I can go deeper into this. COVID passed, inshallah. We're now actively, one of the reasons I'm here is I'm trying to find these artists and bring them to the Pacific Northwest, bring them in there and start developing an ecosystem where these artists can have a chance to play. I didn't realize that the current administration was going to create so many amazing opportunities to see what happens when these artists come in, and people that might have voted differently than I wanted them to vote, their hearts will be open by seeing these artists and what they can offer. There's a lot of pressure going on right now, and I'm like, okay, what can I do? Instead of becoming a keyboard warrior like my friends are, I can actually actively engage in bringing these artists in and just get out of the way. And then also build that. I'm a father. My children are interested in doing what I'm doing. I want to build an educational platform where they can continue doing this, and I can learn from them, and we can learn from each other, and then continue to build that ecosystem. It's like, this is something I've been thinking about for a while, with all my various backgrounds, and I was like, this is time to allow the city that I love, Seattle, to become a cultural destination, not just a technology destination or a outdoor destination, and that's the project.
Do you have any plans connected with Bulgarian artists? Do you have some ideas on your mind?
I'm here to check them out.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, we've had Balkan. I brought in the Bulgarian choir, all 24 of them. That was a great session at KEXP. That was beautiful. But I'm here to look. I'm going to be in Serbia after this. I'm at Ostrava. I was in Poland before here. I'm working a lot with Ukrainian artists. We've had Daka Braka and Dakdaras, Menina Krut, and others. I'm looking at these platforms that I've built as a way, as an activist. Like, what can I do to allow artists an opportunity to perform, to be seen by others? And then at the same time, what can I do to train, not train, but like inspire others to build their own radio station, build their own YouTube channel, because the tools are there and they're cheap as hell. You just need to just try it and see what happens. Like, I would love to see stuff coming out of all these countries that I've been in. But right now, I'm able to share artists with my listeners and my viewers. So I'm here looking.
How much do you depend on social media? That's very interesting for us to know. And do you use Facebook exposure, Instagram, TikTok, or somewhere else?
I use everything except Snapchat. I don't understand Snapchat, and it's for my kids. You know, it's kind of you go do that. Yeah, social it's vital to use technology. It's a tool, and this is one of the things that comes up a lot right now, even in the context of AI. You know, it's the dirty word right now, but it's a tool. I was on a panel in Budapest and Ritma where we were talking about how technology is actually adopted by the music industry. And if you look at the history of it, it's always treated like the devil. The synthesizer was like, I have records that on the back, no synthesizers were used in making this record. You have the same situation with loopers, drum machines, auto-tune, all of these things are like never. And then they become a tool. This is the next thing with AI. It's a huge tool and it's transformative, but within this sector, you got to figure out how to use it so you can actually see if it's working for you or not. But it's kind of human nature. Like, we're all a bit Luddites, like, no, this is not going to happen. Play with it, learn how to use the language. It might be for you, it might not be for you, but at least figure it out yourself. There should be no reason why I know so much about social media and technology, but I realize that in order to fulfill my mission, I got to use all the tools that I have before me.
Okay, and finally, what is your wildest dream concerning the future of you personally, your program, WOPUP or KEXP?
KEXP is fine. We're growing really well. It's cool. As I said before, I've got a bunch of different things going on right now. Sama is the main thing that I'm focusing on because Sama is a hub. And you guys know what a hub is? So I have a lot of things. I have a movie coming out. I have all of this different content. We set up a satellite in Lisbon, and we set up a satellite in Warsaw, where I have other hosts and other people I'm exploring the Afro-Polish scene, like in Krakow and Warsaw. There's really interesting bands like Ifi Uda and the Afronauts that are Polish African. And then I want to keep discovering. I want to be amazed. And I want to build these ecosystems and find people that are willing to play with me and see what happens and then make it sustainable. I'm a Polish-American citizenship, so I'm looking at the European Union, I'm looking at Creative Europe, but not as in like let's fund me, let's partner. Let's see what we can do here. I'd love to set up something in Sofia. I love to see how, different communities work together. When we set up Sama in Lisbon, we were exploring the colonial history, Angola, Mozambique, Cape Verde with Portugal. We discovered LGBTQ and trans artists exploring Fado. And then we started looking into, okay, the DoorDash drivers, the Uber drivers are all from Bangladesh and Pakistan. What kind of music are they making? What is happening in these things? I want to continue and explore that.
Wish you luck. Thank you so much, Darek, for your thoughts, insights, and your interesting journey. It's really impressive. Now we have some time for your questions, so use the mic, please. Use your time. I would love to announce that Darek will be my guest on Monday on Xerox Radio in my show, The Naked Lunch. So you're welcome to tune in on Xerox Radio. So please.
Hi, I just wanted to ask you a question concerning the idea that you say that you work in multiple sectors, cinema, music, and tech. And I'm really fascinated by the fact because I myself finished cinema, I'm moving towards music, and I wanted to ask you, do you think that a person should be really, kind of specialize in something particular, or do you think that having a broader approach can actually help you between the different things that you do? Is there a right way to do stuff, basically? How does the different thing that you do across different sectors, how has that helped you, basically?
This goes back to that question that I posed before. It's like, what's going to make you happy? What is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to accomplish with these things, with your time that you have? And so I'm an immigrant. I found interesting opportunities. I ended up in a city that was open to those opportunities. When I was in Boston, I wanted to do things, but there was a whole group, we call them Brahmins. They're like, no, 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 show me your degree, show me, how much investment you have. In Seattle, it was like, let's just try it. I've got an afternoon, let's give it a shot. And I found myself moving into those positions. I found myself like just kind of organically coming in, and I was also willing to help. I was willing to do stuff for free. I was willing to experiment. I showed up. I didn't complain. And then something opened up for me. And then another thing opened up for me. Now, it's tough because, especially in tech, there's a lot of people that I work with or have worked with that thought they were set for life. They're not. They're being laid off left and right because the things that they were doing are now being done by AI. Now, the people that actually were doing those things but kept getting better at it, laziness is a problem. They just got better and better and better, learned how to use the tools. They're fine because they're not working in a factory mindset. They ended up becoming like, we call them clock watchers. You guys know what that means? It's like when you go to work and you're looking at your clock, like, when do I leave? Or like, when am I on vacation? And that's just not sustainable. So you kind of have to, my personal belief, you kind of have to try different things because we're in a really interesting transitional phase. And if you're doing music, you got to think about the things that are actually working. Live music is working. Helping other artists is working. Building that ecosystem that you're supporting each other is working. But it starts with like, what's going to make you happy? Is it something I'm good at? And is it something I can grow? Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Please.
Hello, I'm Simo. I'm an artist, and I'm very grateful and thankful for you being here. Thank you so much. I've got a question considering radio and the future of radio. Considering streaming platforms, social media oversaturation, is it that there's a possible merger of radio video format like you've successfully achieved, or is there something totally different that's coming our way as consumers and artists? And about AI in that respect, what role does it play in this sphere? And can radio as a medium on its own compete with this ever-changing technological oriented world?
Yes. I'm being facetious, I'm sorry. It's always changing. We have a robust podcast offering. I am personally looking at various other forms coming in because the price of entering the market is microscopic right now to what it was just 10 years ago. So it's an opportunity. This is a really interesting time to think like a scientist, and you can hypothesize, put it into practice, and get what I call a pretotype, where like before a prototype, and see what happens. We launch A/B testing all the time, actively using social media. KEXP works the algorithm as much as possible on YouTube to make sure that it's taking advantage of all the tools and technologies that are available there. We don't know what's coming, but it's going to be amazing and it's going to be terrifying. You want to be there offering your art in there. It's like the thing to get screwy is that when the technology starts pulling away from what you want to do, and it's all about that internal work. Like, what is it that I want to say? Is it making me happy saying this? Are these tools going to allow me to actually say what it is that I want to say? If the tools start speaking for you instead of you for it, then it gets kind of screwy. To me, I mean, others might have a whole other concept around this. But there's a kind of an ironic reality about the music sector, the music industry. It kills itself every 10 years and then comes back to life again. And this is one of those times where something is happening. We don't know what it is. It's like I use the term chrysalis a lot. You guys know what a chrysalis is? We don't know. It's mush. Something is going to happen. You know, because right now we talk about these things about like, okay, I'm going to sell CDs at a venue. Less than 2% are ever opened. You're going to play these in your car? What are we doing here? Like, what is that? What is the relationship that you're trying to build? What are you using this technology for? You know, why are you an artist? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Any other questions, please?
Hey, Darek, I was just wondering, as you know, as a programmer, I love watching videos on KEXP and on Tiny Desk. But I also found out that sometimes these videos are their own world, their own scene. You cannot totally trust on them as a programmer. If you see a great Dochi performance on a Tiny Desk, and you think, yeah, I'm going to book Dochi, you might as well end up with Dochi performing solo on your stage. So you have to be very careful. And I was just wondering, do you guys talk to musicians about how they're setting up their performance? Do you interfere? Do you give them total freedom? Or how does that work?
That's always a crapshoot. You know, we see this in hip hop a lot, where it's just like they're great on SoundCloud, but in a live setting, they've never done it before. They don't quite know what they're doing, and other genres also. We don't really interfere too much. We are using a 4 to 5 camera shoot, so it's got to be interesting. You know, it's like we are a platform. They're expected to perform, and they're expecting to be good. You know, that's why it's a proper sound check and everything else. They understand it's an opportunity for them, so we want to have the best that they can offer. And most of the time they realize that this is an opportunity and it's a performance. How that would translate into booking situation, I think it's a valuable tool for a programmer, because you could see what they're capable of doing. And so then can lean on that. But as far as us, like we want this, this, and this, we don't really get involved in that.
I think you see, what I think that you also see is artists that have good record companies behind them, good management agencies behind them. They really invest in making a special program out of it with many special guests and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I just had a bet on Bubble Blues out of Marrakesh. Yusra is an amazing gimbiri player, and she's got this electro gimbiri with this, and Bryce, they're awesome. They're killer live show, like Hendrix meets Smashing Pumpkins, but literally in Marrakesh, fronted by this phenomenal woman who's representing Yaya, what's it called? Naya, which is the youth movement in Morocco. I love music of Morocco. I want to amplify women, especially performing from this region. And she knew that this was going to be an opportunity. She had costume changes. She was ready, you know, tons of rehearsals, and we become a show. But for me, there's a political and social messaging that I want to convey with the artists that I'm booking and the artists that I also want, because you have to understand, like, we do a classic Instagram collaboration with this. So it's like, okay, we're on there, I'm a collaborator, they're a collaborator, we want to make sure their label, whatever is going on, and then we tell them, reach out to everybody you know and let them know that this video is coming out, so then they can talk about it. It becomes, sometimes artists just, they're living in a silo, and this is not the time to be living in a silo. You gotta build your community, and here's a great example, because if the millions of people that are watching the KEXP video find out about you, then it becomes something interesting. This is also something I wanted to tell everybody here. When you mention the name of your band, spell it, be clear, and let people know where you are on social. You've got to use this as a reflex. Let everybody know about you and how they can find you, because they're not going to remember. But if you give that, like, I'm there constantly, okay, I'm going to follow you, I'm going to tag you, and etc. This is the new lingua that the music industry is asking you to do, and that's promoters and everybody else. You got to talk about what you're doing.
Do you keep track on those comments in social media, and do you let them influence your decision about the program that you put on air or online?
No.
No, never.
Never. People are crazy. No, this can't be. It's like if you're an artist, you're doing the art for yourself, and you can't be. I think Bowie said, you don't speak to the Academy. I think Rick Rubin just did a whole piece on that. You've got to be true to yourself. It's the only way you're going to keep yourself sane in this industry. The artists that became super famous and fell into massive depression. They lost that sense of self with them. There's a huge industry in therapy for artists, you know, because it's crazy making business. But no, I don't really follow comments. Others do in there, and you know, we're working the algorithm. We have people whose day job is to make sure that the videos that are going out are falling within a particular support system that will rise for their visibility. And you guys can do that too. That's relatively cheap, and it's an important process to make sure that people know about you. But it starts with, this is who I am, this is my Instagram handle, you can find me on this platform or that platform, anything about you. Share that as soon as you can.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, please? Yes.
Hello, Darek. I'm Tarmo from Estonia, Vilnius Folk Music Festival.
Great festival.
Yeah. I have like a personal question for you. What type of, or what do you value in music? What do you like in music? How do you make your choices? Just personally.
Right now, it's one of the reasons I started Sama is like, I want you to tell me something about yourself through this music. Tell me where you're from, tell me something about you, give me something unique about you. You know, we're dealing with, I keep leaning on this, 150,000 songs uploaded to Spotify every day because it used to be hard to make music. You needed to get a studio, you needed to find the instruments, you needed to find, all these things are now, I can make a song, I've done this, I got hired to make a ringtone. It took me 5 minutes. Boom, uploaded it to distro, it's out there. So what is a song right now? You know, we're not even talking about how streaming platforms actually gauge how they're going to pay. What is a song? What are vocals? All of these things are in play right now. If you give me something that is really interesting about you, unique about you, I will spend time listening to that. It's not genre specific. I love it and I hate it all at the same time. But it's got to be something interesting about there.
Yeah, so it's you can't define it. It just happens as a spark when you listen it.
I have this weird, we talked about this, Alpha and I talked about, I have this weird reflex that if I'm moved by the song, I actually tear up. And my family knows it's like, this is it. It's like literally, it just connects me. It's like this secret power that I have. But it's like, okay, something is happening here. And so it's got to have that visceral connection for me.
Okay, let's everybody try to trigger that in Darek.
Yeah, awesome. Make me cry.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Please.
Hi, I'm Csaba from Hungary Ozero Festival, and I'm curious about your opinion about how festival scene and KEXP and music can get connected, and is there any role you see in the festivals as hubs and as something which is important, or you don't really recommend or said anything about festivals? So I'm just curious, because we are now about KEXP, or just you are not into festivals?
I'm here at a festival, obviously. I'm into festivals. I mean, I have two things. I'm working on KEXP, I'm working on Sama. KEXP, I'm trying to find really interesting bands to play them on a radio and maybe get them in studio. Have them come and play in the city that I live in and tell the story about that city and their time in America and performing. I'm here because this is a great way. Other people have done the work for me by putting a festival together and have selected bands that they think are really important. I love festivals, they're awesome. And if there's an opportunity to do something together, that's great. But the thing you have to understand is that like KEXP took from its, you know, KCMU little beginning when it was just, you know, my own wife, she was dating, we were dating at the time, and she's like, that it was cute that I was still doing college radio. It's like, oh, look at you, little college radio show. No idea that it was going to become what it is. But it is now an important part of who I am and what I do, but it's always changing. And it takes 25 years to make KEXP. But you could do NTS, you could do some other things here. You could build, like KEXP right now is actively engaged in supporting micro radio. You guys know what micro radio is? It's like tiny little streams. So the government opened up more broadband for radios. So you could live on an island and you have your own micro radio station. We have a program called 90.teen where we're training the next generation how to do radio, how to do micro radio, how to build that because we know, we used to compete with other radio stations. We used to do these drives. It's like when you go on the air and asking for support and money. We don't compete with radio stations anymore. So we had to think, we compete with algorithms. We compete with other modalities. So we want to make sure that other radio stations are around. And this is something that you guys can do. I mean, obviously, different political situation, who owns these things, but as far as building a scene, you can do this. My own children are working in music. They don't work, but they're part of a group of kids that throw parties, throw concerts. They use copiers to make the posters for their shows, like punk rock, old school. And then that's an authentic experience for them. And then they use social to put up these posters. So they're not leaning into AI. They're developing their own authentic scene. And one of the reasons I'm at the festivals is I want to see what is the authentic scene here. I'm in Belgrade next week because it's an amazing scene right now. I want to see what's going on over there. But I want to be there firsthand so then I can tell people about it and from a place of authenticity. And festivals are great. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. I'm glad.
Okay. It's like 7 minutes past 3 o'clock. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Ellie, a Bulgarian artist, and I wanted to ask you, have you ever worked with radio promotion companies, so like iPluggers, for example? What do you think about them?
Have I worked with them?
Yeah.
No.
Is it a waste of money for independent artists? Or
I would say, I'm not sure if it's a waste of money, but ask them, just check, what are their success stories? What else are they doing? And I would look at companies that are doing radio and other types of promotion to help you with your work. But it's also, it really is about you. Doing the work, trying to get out there, making those connections. I worked with, in Poland, we had a concert with a Ukrainian-Polish band called Dagdana and then another group called Trupa Trupa. We're fabulous post-punk Polish artists. Grzegorz Kwiatkowski is a hustler. He is just constantly pushing his work, and it's effective. He's getting airplay. They're able to book tours, and he's not working with anybody. He's actually going out there and working social. It has to be kind of, because if I'm getting something from a radio promoter, if it's somebody I trust, okay, I'll listen to you. But if I'm getting something directly from an artist, okay, now something's going on there. Does that make sense?
whatever works. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I believe that's the end of our session. Thank you for your time, for
Thank
your
you.
stories,
Thank you,
for your
Elena.
patience. See you on Monday. Thank you so much for your time and interest.